The great arena of Zorthal Prime was filled with lights, noise, and aliens from hundreds of worlds. The Trial of Might was about to begin, a combat event where warriors from across the galaxy tested their strength, speed, and skill. It was watched by billions, and this year something different was happening. A human was stepping into the ring. Most species looked down on humans. They were seen as new to the stars, still learning, still fragile. But Earth had recently joined the Galactic Council, and they had sent one of their strongest fighters, a man named Ryan. He stood tall, wearing a black training suit, his muscles tight and his eyes full of focus. He had trained in low gravity, high gravity, and vacuum zones. His punches could crush steel. His heart was full of hope for his people. For his planet, across from him stood the giant alien warrior Vorak the Unyielding, a champion of the Krolok species. Standing over 7 feet tall with gray metallic skin, Vorak was famous for defeating enemies with a single blow. He didn't use fancy moves or techniques. He simply used power. And now, he looked at Ryan with a grin that stretched across his wide face. "Your people should stay on their little blue rock," Vorak said loudly, his voice like thunder. "You are soft, you are slow, you are weak," the crowd laughed. Some booed Ryan before the fight even started. Humans had supporters, but they were few in number, and even they were nervous. It was rare for a human to enter a contest like this. Ryan didn't speak. He stepped forward into the center of the ring, raised his hands into a calm fighting stance, and nodded once. The announcer floated above in a drone, shouted something in 10 languages, and the gong rang. The fight began. Ryan moved fast, faster than most expected. He shot forward and launched a sharp punch aimed directly at Vorak's chest. The move was clean, strong, and perfectly timed, but it didn't land. Vorak caught the punch mid-air. His fingers closed around Ryan's fist like a trap. Then, before anyone could react, Vorak squeezed. A loud crack echoed through the arena. Ryan cried out in pain as his hand was crushed. Vorak lifted him by the arm and slammed him down to the ground with ease. The entire fight lasted less than 5 seconds. Silence filled the arena. Ryan lay on the ground, clutching his broken hand, his body shaking. He was not dead, but clearly defeated. Vorak stepped over him and raised his arms. "This is your champion?" he shouted. "This is humanity?" The crowd exploded in laughter and cheers, but not for Ryan. The council members looked at each other, some nodding as if to say, "We warned you." Some alien reporters already started writing stories about Earth's humiliation. The human delegation stood quietly, faces pale. Ryan was taken away by medics. No one spoke. It was a dark moment. Then something strange happened. A soft bell rang in the distance. No one had rung it. From the far end of the arena, a small platform lifted from the floor. On it stood an old man, a human wearing a plain gray robe. His skin was wrinkled, and his long white beard touched his chest. He walked slowly, barefoot. His hands were tucked into his sleeves. Behind him was a giant turtle. The creature moved with calm grace, its heavy shell glimmering with strange blue patterns. It stepped forward, carrying a pack with herbs, scrolls, and water. The old man stopped, stepped to the side, and placed a gentle hand on the turtle's head. Everyone stared. Some laughed. "What is this now?" Vorak called. "More humans? One couldn't even hit me, and now you send a grandfather and a pet." No answer came. The old man simply kept walking forward, slow, quiet, still. His eyes were closed, yet he never missed a step. He reached the center of the ring. The turtle followed and sat beside him, breathing quietly. The announcer hesitated. "Do you represent Earth?" it asked. The old man didn't speak. Instead, he took off one sandal and tapped the ground with his bare foot. The floor cracked beneath him just slightly. Enough for the nearby sensors to pick up a seismic shift. Enough for Vorak's smile to fade. "Who are you?" Vorak asked. No answer. Someone from the council whispered, "I've heard stories about a man like this. He ended a civil war on Galvan Ix without ever drawing a weapon. They called him the Stillness." Now the arena was completely silent. The old man raised one hand and pointed at Vorak. The message was clear. He was not here to speak. He was here to fight. The arena remained silent. No drums, no music. No one dared speak. The old man stood still, his hand slowly lowering after pointing at Vorak. His eyes were half closed, calm like a mountain in deep sleep. The turtle beside him moved a little and then sat down, lowering its head like it understood what was coming. Vorak blinked. He was used to loud warriors and angry challenges. But this man gave no sound, no words, only presence. "This is madness," said a voice from the council box. "He's not even armored." "Is this a joke?" another alien hissed. "He brought a turtle?" But the human observers weren't laughing. A few of them stood up now, watching closely. One of them, a gray-haired woman in a blue robe, whispered, "He came out of seclusion." "I thought he would never return," Vorak growled. "Do you think silence scares me, old one?" "I shattered a human punch with 2 fingers. No answer. Say something." Vorak shouted. The old man simply took a slow breath, then stepped forward once. That single step echoed louder than any shout. The floor beneath cracked a little more, a hairline fracture spreading outward. The turtle's head followed him slowly, calm and relaxed. The referee drone hovered nervously. "Combat will begin." Now, Vorak didn't wait. He charged, aiming a heavy fist straight toward the old man's chest. It was the same move he used to crush Ryan's attack. He wanted to finish it quickly and show the galaxy again that humans were not ready, but just as the punch reached him, the old man was gone. No flash, no speed burst. Just gone. Vorak's fist hit air. Then dash tap. Something touched the back of Vorak's elbow. It was the old man's finger. The entire arm went numb. Vorak stepped back, eyes wide. "What did you do?" Still, no answer. The crowd gasped. The turtle stood up, turned in a perfect circle, and sat again. "What is this?" Vorak muttered. His arm still wouldn't move. "Are you using tricks?" He roared and used his other arm to punch again. This time he added a pulse of energy from his implants. A red flash that could melt stone. The old man raised only his hand and lightly tapped the ground. A small wave of force lifted dust and cracked the arena floor in a perfect ring around him. Vorak's punch curved strangely and missed by inches. The force of it hit the wall behind and left a crater. Now Vorak looked angry and confused. The audience was silent again, eyes wide. No one expected this. Some called it magic. Others began checking their scanners. One alien tech said, "There's no shield, no energy weapon. He's using natural flow." "Impossible," another whispered. "That's an old Earth myth. About breath and gravity." "No, it's real," said one of the human observers, his eyes shining. "That's not just a man. That's a master of stillness." Vorak shook his head. He was starting to sweat. He backed up a few steps. "You don't even fight properly. You just move and touch." The old man, calm as ever, bent down and picked up a pebble from the cracked floor. He tossed it in the air, watched it fall, then walked 3 steps to the side and sat down. He crossed his legs. He was meditating. In the middle of the fight, Vorak looked around, unsure if he was being mocked or defeated. Rage burned in his eyes. He dashed forward with full speed, this time jumping into the air and aiming a crushing stomp on the old man's body. The turtle moved. For the first time, the turtle lifted its shell just slightly enough to create a vibration across the floor. When Vorak landed, he hit an area that had become oddly soft, like the ground absorbed his force and threw it back up. He was launched into the air and spun out of control. He crashed down, hard, rolling across the floor. Gasps filled the arena. The old man opened his eyes again and stood up slowly. He walked over to Vorak, who was now breathing hard, confused, and a little bruised. The old man didn't strike. He didn't speak. He simply stood there and bowed. It was not a mocking bow. It was a warrior's bow filled with meaning. Vorak stared at him, teeth clenched. You think you're better than me?" The old man closed his eyes, placed his hand gently on Vorak's forehead, and then walked away. Back to his turtle, the meaning was clear. This fight wasn't about winning, it was about control. About showing balance. Vorak sat up, dazed. For the first time in his life, he didn't know what to do next. The crowd stayed quiet, and the galaxy, for the first time, looked at a human not with laughter, but with awe. Vorak had never felt this before. He wasn't tired. He wasn't hurt badly, but something deep inside him had changed. His mind, which was always full of fire and pride, now felt uncertain. The old man stood once again in the middle of the arena. He didn't take a stance. He didn't raise his fists. He just breathed slow and calm. The turtle beside him blinked slowly, then moved back a few steps and sat quietly, like it had seen this happen before many times. The galactic audience remained silent. Billions of beings across systems watched the live broadcast. Many didn't understand what was happening. They were used to flashy moves, powerful punches, and explosive energy. But here, this human did nothing that looked dangerous yet. Vorak, the undefeated champion, looked completely unsure. Vorak wiped dust off his arm and stood up. He was angry. He needed to end this before it made him look weak. "This time," he growled, "I won't hold back." Vorak's skin turned darker as his implants activated. His species used special energy enhancers inside their bones. His muscles expanded, his feet cracked the ground beneath him. Red lines of heat ran along his arms. The council members frowned. "He's activating high-tier tech. This might get dangerous." But the old man still didn't move. Vorak charged. The arena shook under his speed. He was faster than before, like a comet flying low. He swung his fist with full force. A punch meant to end the match in one blow. But just as it came close, Don took one step sideways, that's all. The punch missed by a finger's width. Vorak's body flew past him and hit the ground. The crowd gasped, not because of the missed punch but because of what happened next. Vorak couldn't move. His body, now full of energy, was twitching. Something was wrong. The implants weren't working properly. His balance was broken. The old man reached down and gently tapped the center of Vorak's back just once. Vorak's limbs stopped moving. His muscles locked. "What? What is this?" he shouted. No answer. Behind him, a human scientist in the crowd explained to a curious alien beside her. "He's not just a fighter. He understands the flow of energy inside the body. Old Earth martial arts, combined with quantum balance control?" "You mean—" He shut down the implants with a touch? "Not exactly." He shifted the flow of pressure. "The implants are fighting the body now, not the opponent." In the arena, the old man stepped back. He didn't look happy. He didn't look proud. He looked calm, almost peaceful. Vorak struggled. He forced his body to stand again. His tech was overheating, but he didn't care. His pride was louder than the pain. "No more tricks," Vorak growled. "Face me like a warrior." The old man raised one eyebrow. Then, for the first time, he stepped forward on his own. 1 step. 2 steps. 3. Then he moved into a strange pose, arms out. 1 foot lifted slightly. His body balanced like water held in a bowl. The air around him changed. The arena's sensors began reacting. Unusual pressure detected. Microgravity. Fluctuations. Even the turtle lifted its head to watch. Vorak rushed again, roaring like thunder. This time he used both fists and sent out a shockwave of heat, wind, and energy. Everyone expected the human to dodge, but he did and single, D. Instead, he moved with the force. He shifted his weight, leaned slightly, and rode the energy like a wave. The shock past him didn't hit him, and Vorak's own movement threw him forward again. Off balance. In one smooth motion, the old man spun barefoot, his robe fluttering like a falling leaf, and tapped Vorak's knee with the side of his foot. Vorak dropped to one knee. Another tap, this time to the shoulder. He fell fully, chest hitting the ground. The old man knelt beside him. He didn't strike. He didn't mock. He just placed one hand on Vorak's back and looked toward the stars above the open arena. Vorak could feel the message. It was not a show of dominance. It was a lesson, one that said, power is not control. Louder does not mean stronger. Only when you stop forcing can you start understanding. The crowd didn't cheer. They stood quietly. For the first time in the history of the trial of might, a fight wasn't about brute force, but wisdom, flow, and balance. The turtle walked over slowly and sat beside the 2 figures. The referee drone floated down carefully. Is the match over?" The old man stood, gave a small bow, and began walking away. The turtle followed him. The drone turned toward Vorak. He nodded slowly. Yes, it's over. He didn't say it with anger, he said it with respect, and from that moment the galaxy knew humans were not just strong in body, they had something else, something many forgot: silence, stillness, and strength that didn't need noise to be heard. The arena, once loud with cheers and roars, had now become completely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. The silent master had walked off the stage without saying a single word. Behind him, the turtle walked slowly, step by step, as if time itself had slowed down. The entire galaxy was watching. News screens across thousands of worlds showed the same moment: the old human man, calm and quiet, leaving behind one of the strongest warriors in the galaxy, defeated, not by force but by peace. Vorak, the unyielding, sat in the center of the cracked arena floor. He wasn't broken physically. His body still worked. His power was still strong, but his mind was heavy. He had trained all his life to be unbeatable. He had crushed machines, lifted tanks, even stood against plasma storms. But today he had been beaten by a man who never punched, never shouted, and never showed anger. What had happened? A nearby medic walked toward him. Sir, are you injured? Vorak slowly shook his head. No, just confused. High above, in the VIP section, members of the Galactic Council sat in shock. A few of them whispered quietly. Did anyone know of this man? No record in the current fighter list. He was not registered. He fought without weapons. Without implants? Without armor? One of the human representatives stood and gave a small bow. That man is known only by one name: the Stillness. He is not a warrior by title. He is a guardian of balance. He trains in silence and appears only when needed. An alien council member asked, So he's a legend? No, the human replied. He's real, he just doesn't care about being known. The alien nodded slowly, deep in thought. Perhaps we have misunderstood Earth. Far away from the stage, inside a quiet room at the arena's edge, the silent master sat with his turtle. He had returned to his resting place, a small stone platform surrounded by water and light. He said nothing. He simply brewed tea, poured it into a tiny cup, and gave half of it to the turtle. The turtle sniffed it and blinked. Outside, Ryan, the young human who had first fought Vorak, limped into the room. His hand was bandaged, and his pride still hurt more than his bones. He stood in front of the master, unsure what to say. Finally, he whispered, You came for me? The silent master looked up and nodded once. Ryan swallowed hard. I'm not strong. I thought I was. I trained every day, pushed my body, studied techniques, but I couldn't even land a hit. The master poured a second cup of tea and held it out. Ryan stepped forward and took it. Why didn't you fight him like a real warrior? Ryan asked. Why didn't you hit him? The master smiled gently. Then he drew one small symbol in the dust on the floor. It was a circle. Ryan stared at it. A circle? The master tapped his chest with 2 fingers. Then he tapped Ryan's chest. Ryan understood. The fight was never about hurting the body. It was about completing the circle. Control, balance, respect. Back in the arena, news drones flew overhead, broadcasting interviews and analysis. Experts were arguing about what had just happened. Was that really martial skill? Was it some hidden tech? No, I think it was something else. Many species began researching Earth's old fighting systems: Tai Chi, Aikido, internal flow techniques. Words like Chi, balance, and harmony began trending across networks. Even young alien cadets started practicing breathing exercises. Maybe there's more to strength than punching, they said, on Krolak Prime. Where Vorak's people lived, crowds gathered around screens. Some were angry, but most were quiet. One young warrior watched the replay again and again. He didn't even hit him, he whispered in awe. No, his teacher replied. He didn't need to. The silent master remained in the arena complex for 3 days. He didn't speak. He didn't leave messages. He only sat, walked with his turtle, and gave small gestures of respect to those who greeted him. On the 4th day, he disappeared. No one saw him leave. He simply vanished. But the effect of what he had done remained. The trial of might had changed. It wasn't just about force anymore. Now. It was also about self-control, wisdom, and inner strength. New rules were proposed. Challenges could now include stillness tests, where fighters would face trained masters in peaceful duels of balance. Not to hurt, but to humble and Earth's place in the galaxy? It had risen. No longer the weak new race. They were now seen as something different, quiet, deep, dangerous, but kind. In a small garden outside the arena, Ryan continued to train. He moved slowly, breathing deeply, repeating the same soft motion. Again and again, his injured hand was healing. But more importantly, his mind was growing stronger. He remembered the master's eyes. He remembered the single step that changed the whole battle. And he whispered to himself, "One day, I'll understand what that truly meant." Vorak sat alone in his private quarters. The large room was dark and silent. Only the soft hum of machines filled the space. His fists were clenched, and his body still trembled, not from fear, but from something deeper, doubt. He replayed the fight again and again on the screen. Every movement of the old man, every small step, every slight breath, it all played in slow motion. Vorak, the warrior known across the galaxy for his strength, had been defeated, without a single blow. How? He whispered. His pride told him to forget. To move on, to challenge another fighter and crush them, but something inside him refused. For the first time, he didn't want to fight. He wanted to understand. Elsewhere, Ryan was still training in the garden near the arena. His bandaged hand had grown stronger. Every day he practiced slow, simple movements under the morning sun. He thought deeply now. He didn't rush. He had learned that power without peace was like fire without control. One evening, as the stars shined above, a familiar sound echoed across the garden. Tap, 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 tap. Ryan looked up. It was the turtle. And walking beside it, Vorak. Ryan stood up quickly, confused. "What are you doing here?" Vorak didn't answer right away. He looked tired. Not in body, but in spirit. He sat down on the grass without asking. "I thought I knew everything about battle," Vorak finally said. "But when he stood in front of me, I felt like a child again." Ryan nodded. He didn't need to fight, just his presence was enough. "I've broken stone with my fists," Vorak said. "I've faced beasts that destroyed cities." But he looked at me, and I fell apart. The turtle stepped between them and sat, quiet, still, as if it understood the moment. Vorak looked at Ryan with serious eyes. "Teach me what he taught you," Ryan was surprised. "I don't know enough yet, but you're learning," Vorak said. "And I want to learn too." In the following days, the two warriors trained together. The sight shocked many. Vorak, the great champion, practicing soft movements and breathing slowly beside a younger human. No one laughed. They watched in silence. News of this reached far. Videos were shared. Species who once ignored Earth now listened. More warriors from other worlds came to learn not how to fight harder, but how to fight wiser. But the peace didn't last long. Far away on the planet Drelmuk, a powerful weapon was being tested, one that could copy and amplify combat energy. The creators believed that by studying the Silent Master's techniques, they could build a machine that would predict and overpower any fighter. They used stolen arena footage. They used scanned data. And finally, they created something new, a living machine, a fighter built from technology, but trained to break the unbreakable. They named it Project Echo. And they sent it to challenge the master. One evening, as the turtle walked peacefully through the outer hills, a dark shape landed nearby. It wasn't loud. It didn't shout. It only stood. It looked like a human, but its eyes glowed softly, and its movements were too perfect. The Silent Master stepped from the trees and saw it. No fear, no surprise. Only calm. The machine bowed once. The master bowed back. And without a word, the true test began. Ryan and Vorak were deep in meditation when they both stopped at the same time. They felt it, a wave, a sudden shift in pressure. Ryan stood. Something's wrong. They followed the feeling through the trees, over rocks, and into a clearing where the turtle sat alone. No master. No opponent. Just the quiet wind. Vorak touched the ground. They fought here. Ryan looked around. The marks were strange soft imprints, perfectly spaced. Energy waves had curved the earth. It was like watching the memory of a battle. With no signs of violence. Then the turtle lifted its head and walked. They followed, step by step, until they reached a stone ledge. There sat the master, his robe torn, his hand bleeding slightly, but his posture calm. He was breathing slowly. Project Echo stood in front of him, but its body was still, not moving. Not blinking. It had stopped. Not broken. Not damaged. Just paused. Like it was waiting for a final command. The master slowly stood up. And tapped it. Once on the chest, the machine fell gently to its knees and shut down. Ryan's mouth dropped open. He beat it, Vorak's voice was soft, without breaking it. He didn't destroy it, he freed it. The silent master turned to them and nodded once, then he stepped away toward the hills. Ryan called out, "Wait, please. Teach us how to do what you do." But the master only smiled. Then, like wind through trees, he was gone. In that moment, the two warriors understood something greater than strength. True mastery is not about fighting. It is about knowing when to stop, and how to bring peace even in the middle of war. The stars above the trial arena glowed softly that night. It was quiet, not the silence of fear, but of reflection. Something had changed in the galaxy, and everyone could feel it. The silent master was gone. No one knew where he went. Some believed he returned to a hidden mountain on Earth. Others said he walked through a secret gate that only he could open. But those who saw him knew one thing for sure. He left behind more than victory. He left behind a lesson. Back at the arena, Ryan and Vorak stood together on the training ground. They no longer saw each other as enemies. They stood as students too. Warriors from different worlds, bound by one silent teacher. Every morning, they trained. Not with loud shouts or fast strikes, but with stillness. They moved slowly, breathing in rhythm with the air, copying the master's movements as best they could. They didn't aim to defeat anyone. They only aimed to understand. Crowds no longer laughed. They came to watch, to learn, and to feel something that weapons could never give: peace in motion. Soon, others joined. A tall insect-like warrior from Xylax, a light-footed fighter from the moon rings of Merid, even a robot with learning circuits came and asked to observe. Together they trained, together they grew. The Galactic Council noticed the shift. A vote was held. For the first time, Earth was invited to help design a new code of combat, one based not only on power, but also on discipline and inner balance. Ryan was chosen to represent Earth. In his speech, he said, "We used to think winning meant being stronger, faster, or louder. But we've learned something else. That sometimes true strength is when you don't need to fight at all." Those words were repeated across thousands of planets. They were painted on walls, printed in training halls, and even taught to children. In space academies. Far away, on a small green world with quiet rivers and old trees, the silent master sat alone beside his turtle. He didn't need to be seen. His work was done. The turtle looked up at him. He smiled. He placed a small scroll into the river and watched it float away. The scroll was blank, but the message was clear. What you carry inside is more important than what you show outside. Months passed. Then years. The arena changed. A new section was built, called the Circle of Harmony. Fighters from every species could enter, but only if they passed one test. Control over self. It was not about how hard they could hit. It was about how well they could listen to themselves, to their breath, and to their actions. The silent style became a symbol. It was known as the Way of the Stillness, and it started with one old man, one slow turtle, and one moment of peace. Ryan, now older and wiser, returned to Earth. He opened a school, not a normal combat school, but a place where warriors could come to find balance. He trained young people, soldiers, scholars, and even machines. Each student was given the same first lesson: sit, breathe, watch the world, and learn before you act. Vorak also changed. He returned to Krolak Prime and surprised his people. He no longer fought in tournaments. Instead, he taught the circle of movement, showing his people that power with peace could shape a better world. He shared the story of the silent master with his students every day. At first, they didn't believe him, but when he bowed instead of shouting, when he helped others stand instead of knocking them down, they listened. And slowly, his world changed too, across the galaxy. Statues were built, but not of warriors holding swords, not of people roaring in victory. Instead, they were statues of the silent master sitting beside his turtle eyes closed, hands calm, feet bare, and heart open. No name was carved into the stone, only a circle, and so, in the end, the galaxy didn't remember how the punch was shattered. They remembered what came after, the stillness, the peace, and the silent master who showed that the greatest battles are not won with fists, but with presence.